of the streets. Pistol with me with the heat. Chicken shit sizzling. Trying to serve me with the all you can eat. Murder beef. I'm a young black heterosexual male. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't sell. That's the real reason why they want me up.
Welcome to Martini Monday with a sprinkle of Ann. So today we're going to talk about the protest. So on May 25th, 2020, Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd after kneeling on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Immediately following his death, protests and riots broke out across the country, calling for justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, who also lost her life to the hands of a cop. Many of the protests were seemingly to be setups held by the cops to help the cops arrest more protesters. Many of the setups involved looting and protests led by the police. Many of the peaceful protests across the country were turned violent by the police to put fear in the protesters. The protesters were pepper sprayed, tear gassed, beaten, and threatened by the protectors of the law. Protests have become violent across the country and across the world. There's countries where the people are fighting back against the police. Even here in America, people are starting to fight back against the police because they're realizing that enough is enough. You know, the police, you've had your fun is over. It's time for us to live in reality and have the justice that we deserve. And also, these protests have also become more violent because the police officers want to put fear in the protesters and their citizens so that they can feel more superior and feel as though that the protesters will back down and they will diminish a little, but it's not working. Instead, it's making us want to protest even more to get justice and to fight for what is right. But what's making it hard about going to these protests and planning these protests is you can't really trust the source. You have to make sure your source is reliable because a lot of the times these can actually be setups and you may not go home after this protest. Or sometimes if the location of the protest is put up on social media, you have to be careful and make sure that you and those around you are safe to ensure that the police aren't trying to be violent or trying to beat you or make you feel any less than because you're protesting for your rights and the rights of others. Now I'm just going to dive into a couple of experiences that I've had at these protests. So my first protest I went to was one of the first ones I had in Norfolk, which was the one where we marched by the police department near NSU and all that stuff. This is the one that was on Virginia Beach Boulevard, I believe. And this is my very first march. And I marched it on an empty stomach, and it was the worst experience for me to do. It was a great experience to be out there with people who share the same, the same views and values as you. But it was just horrible physically because I really could not concentrate on the protest because I was so hungry and felt so weak. It wasn't that bad of a protest until the Norfolk police chief came out and I guess he thought he was calming the crowd down, but it kind of stirred up the crowd a little more because everything that he was saying just felt very fake and very scripted. Like he was just saying this to get us to shut the hell up. But it did feel really good being out there for the first time for me protesting, to be with people who share the same values as me and, just to scream to the top of our lungs and get our voices heard. I do notice that a lot of protests, they use the no justice, no peace chant. And to me, no justice, no peace means literally what it says, like no justice, no peace. But I think the Karens of America misinterpreted the no peace part as looting and being the thugs that America defines us protesters as. And it's really not. It really means that we're going to continue to make our voices be heard and we're going to continue to fight and protest until justice is a norm and not an occasion. The next protest I attended was in Virginia Beach. This night we didn't even get to make it to the protest. As soon as we made it out to the beach, it was so much tear gas. The smoke was everywhere. There were fires getting started, little small fires. They could put them out in maybe 2.5 seconds. But there were still fires. There was tear gas. There was police on every block, every corner. helicopters. There was like five in the air. Um, SWAT was out there. Chesapeake Police. Um, I'm sure Norfolk Police. Like everybody's police department was in Virginia Beach. Like it really felt like a war zone in Virginia Beach. So I also attended the protest that was in Richmond. That protest, I was definitely very nervous about attending. I did not know what to expect. My family, like my mom, was a little bit nervous about me attending it, but I attended it and I made it out. As we can see, I'm here today. Of course, like we're gonna feel, the urge of being a little like just nervous just because of the history of these protests. But I got my ass in the car and I went to the protest. Um, when we got there, we marched maybe a couple blocks to where everyone was sitting in front of City Hall and they were talking and we were doing like the moment of silence and then we started the protest. As we were marching, there were some people in the protest who I guess they planned it, but they were just trying to make it known that they planned it and it kind of was just throwing the mood off a little bit more. Like people were angry, but now people were actually like annoyed and angry, and it was just making the crowd's vibes a little off. Um, but overall, it was a really good protest. Um, in the end, it did end in tear gas, though. We left right before the tear gas, like literally maybe 5 minutes before the tear gas, we were gone because they changed the curfew while we were out. Like the curfew went from being 7:30 to 7 o'clock. And by the time they changed the curfew, it was already about to be 7 o'clock. So it was just a lot. Um, my friends did get tear gas while they were out there, and it was honestly like a scary situation because in the moment you really don't know what you're about to do. Like the tear gas can come from any direction, the officer can come from any direction, anything can happen, and you really don't know that you're safe until you're actually safe. Up next, we're going to talk about these messy ass and some are good celebrity reactions. Now, usually I really don't care about what celebrities have to say about certain matters that go on in the world, but I do feel like on certain matters, such as this movement and these protests, celebrities do have a bigger influence on um, certain politics of it. So, a few of our black celebrities and social media influencers took it upon themselves to speak down upon the protest or to even use the protest as a chance to get clout or likes on Instagram. So the first celebrity that we're going to talk about is Saucy Santana. Santana took it upon himself to gather him and two of his friends, and they did a photo shoot with signs and wearing all black as if they were imitating a protest. One of the signs said, I can't breathe, and the other one said, All Lives Matter. Now, first of all, he made a mistake by creating it as a photo shoot because now it just looks like you're taking these pictures for the clout of this being a trend at the moment. And then secondly, you are taking a photo shoot that's supposed to be a Black Lives Matter protest, but instead you put All Lives Matter. That's an issue. You cannot, if you're gonna do something like that, you need to be politically correct. Or you need to be correct about the matter. You can't just be putting anything out there and thinking that it's gonna match up because it was a hot mess, honestly. The next celebrity that we're gonna discuss is Trina. So Trina did an interview with her and Trick Daddy, and I think it was like her daily radio show, and she was discussing the curfew and the protest and the rioting, all that stuff that was going on. And she said that the curfew really needs to be from, I believe she said 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. to keep the streets clean of all the animals running around. She called her own people animals because of what the media was displaying. But little do you know, like the black people who are protesting were not the only people who were protesting. There were white people out there protesting. There were other groups out there who were protesting, but were not protesting for the same cause as us. They were just protesting just to be out there, post-quarantine fun. Let's go do something destructive. Let's just go make some noise because everybody else is doing it, blah, blah, blah. So for her to sit up here and just call everyone that's involved in the protest animals and everyone that's caused a curfew animals is ridiculous because we're fighting for your rights, for you and your people, and for our own and for ourselves. So she should have thought about the words that she was going to use to describe the protesters. I am going to upload a small clip of the interview between her and Trick Daddy so y'all can hear what she said.
Curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. and will be enforced until Gimenez lifts the order. They need to make the curfew at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's how I feel.
No.
Keep everybody off the streets, these animals off the streets that are running around in Miami-Dade County acting like they have escaped from a zoo.
Last but not least, I can't continue to dwell on the negativity that has arose from many of the black celebrities in our community based on these protests, but Keke Palmer has really been doing what she has to do and using her platform the way that it should be used to let people know that we are done. She has definitely been out there protesting, marching, talking to the National Guard, letting her voice be heard with the people of her community so that they know that it's just not the civilians. Also, the celebrities and the influencers are done as well. It's not just the society, but it's a global thing. And they're using their platform for the perfect examples.
Y'all march beside us. March beside us.
And again, thank you for tuning in with Martini Monday with a sprinkle of ant. This is the first ever Sprinkle of Ant podcast episode, and I am so excited. And I cannot wait to see you guys next week for Wild Wednesday. And last but not least, I want to make sure that everyone knows to follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube page, and also to follow me on Spotify at Sprinkle of Ant. Also, this week's music will be featured in a playlist in which I'll be adding different songs that are used in the podcast each week. Also, thank you to Miss Elyssa Plaza for her Binz cover by Solange. And you can find that in the bio as well.